Alright, this video is about a long-standing tradition with Starbucks. And, I really haven't put in a video like this before. Um, Quite a few along similar lines. I mean, obviously Starbucks policies are something that need to be addressed. Um, I forget sometimes that regionally words that I may use may be thought of differently. I know that certain parts of Colorado, if you say the word gypsy, it's a badge of honor or a mark of courage or a sign of family. Um, to other parts of Colorado, it means all sorts of derogatory things. I also understand the power of words. Sometimes your words aren't formed properly. Sometimes you don't quite say it the way that it is. Not intentionally, it's just the words don't come together right, or there's a part that you have problems enunciating or pronouncing. Or maybe your tone doesn't come out quite right at the time, or maybe somebody takes offense before you finished what you're saying. It's a difficult thing to deal with when you're in an environment that's busy. With Starbucks, people always talk about Starbucks like it's this corporate entity out to steal all of our souls. But then I look at their policies and I see how the people who manage all of these Starbucks, nearly all of them, they're pretty easygoing people. I think that guy's having problems backing out. He's got a big, expensive, looks like a sports car, like a Lamborghini Diablo type thing, but it's a BMW. That's the person who honked. The license plate on the back says D and C. That's not much of a license plate, it's just white with black letters. So it's probably a showroom car and they're test driving it. I don't know. We'll get back to the video. I've lived a lot of places that are racist. I've lived a lot of places that are inclusive. Boulder, most of the people that live there try to be inclusive. Most of the city council pretends to want to be inclusive, not so much. This isn't a political video, though. This is a video about protection. It used to be for sanctuary. You would go to a church. Well, that don't really exist anymore, does it? For somebody who's abused, Starbucks is a safe environment to go to. Now, let me tell you about the issue I had this morning. Now, mind you, nobody did anything wrong through any of this. It was just a misunderstanding. But it's also a misunderstanding that you don't know if it's something that needs corrected or not. So for me, the word hippie very much describes Starbucks. I mean, it's a very inclusive environment. I've been fighting for LGBT rights for a good portion of my life just because of personal bullying against me. I mean, all growing up, everybody made fun of me for being gay. I've never been gay. Now, when I've been around people who were bullied excessively for being gay, in the same way that I was, they don't have to prove it to me. Just telling me is enough. If they're uncomfortable with the way that somebody might treat them for the way that they are, I literally bought skirts so that if somebody was uncomfortable with that situation, well, I'll wear a skirt. I'll walk down the street with you with a beard and a skirt. If it'll make you feel more comfortable, I'll walk hand in hand with you. I ain't a skirt. I will support you as a human being. You are not doing anything wrong by being who you are, but who are you really? For each and every one of you. This morning, I used a word that apparently regionally here in Oregon it doesn't necessarily have a positive connotation like it does back in Boulder. Back in Boulder, a hippie is a good thing. This is somebody who cares about the environment. This is somebody that, well, somebody who helps to keep the world better and to make the world a better place. Somebody who does care about their environment, does care about their fellow human being, does care about future generations. So this morning I was trying to basically say thank you to the people who work here. I said, how did I say it? When I signed on with Starbucks, I didn't know they were going to be hiring hippies. And the lady who worked here said, I can't remember her exact words. It was basically that was rude that they had just hired that girl, and I didn't know they hired somebody new. You know, that was the first that I'd heard of it. So it was a little bit of information that I didn't know, and that helps for me to understand how that young woman took it that way. Um, and how it would be taken as rude. Now, obviously, I didn't mean it that way. You know, you guys have heard me on my channel. I want you to feel insulted. You're good and insulted, you know. But the lady when I had made that comment, and there was more to it, of course, but they're busy. They're very busy, and a lot of times when they're not busy, they do take the time to listen to me. And this lady in particular, she takes the time to actually package up my sugars in the morning, so that when I come up for a refill, it's already ready already. I mean, these people are incredibly sweet, and nearly at all of the Starbucks, it's that way. At every single Starbucks that I ever have gone to, people that work there always tell me thank you for being courteous, for holding the door open for people, and things like that. And my history with Starbucks goes back all the way to the very first Starbucks in Washington State. That was the very first one I ever went to. Now, the one that's my Starbucks, it's not there anymore. It was the Starbucks on the Pearl Street Mall in Boulder, Colorado. Now, there was a woman there named Bobby, Roberta Richards, and she had some experience with autism. Oh, I wanted to mention the lady this morning, the first thing when I was saying it, she said, that is not appropriate. And I can get how she took it that way. And any of you guys who don't understand why or how she took it that way, I don't think it's difficult to understand. I don't. So given the situation, yeah, it didn't come out right the way that I stated. It was improper. It's not her fault that I said it the way that I did. There's a piece of information that I didn't know that kind of changed it a bit. And if I'd have stated it properly, if I had used my words in a more productive way, the point that I was trying to get across probably would have come across. And if rather than me assuming that my regional dialect in Boulder was universal, especially here where everybody is into recycling like real heavy, it's difficult to find a place to throw away garbage because there's really no garbage cans all over the place, like there is, like in Boulder, for example. You go to Target or you go to Walmart or you walk down the Pearl Street Mall and there's public garbage cans all over the place. There is none here. I can't find any. It's insane. I got to drive all the way to a truck stop or to a rest area to dump off my garbage. Starbucks as a corporation protects all of the people whose rights that I fight for. You're a battered woman and you go into their store, yes, you can absolutely go and sit down and be safe. Absolutely. If you're LGBT, yes, you can go to a Starbucks as a safe place. Absolutely. That's the thing about it being an inclusive environment. But also, when you have a situation like what I had this morning, where nobody meant any harm, nobody was trying to do anything wrong, nobody was trying to hurt anybody, nobody was trying to hurt anybody's feelings. Now, for me, with her taking it that way, of course, it does hurt, and it's not a big major thing. But also, if she does take it that way and she's highly offended by it, and this new person that's hired that I don't even know what this person looks like. So I mean I don't understand at this point quite how it's I mean regionally yes, if the word means something different here, but if she thinks that it's something personal towards this new hire, I mean I don't want to start off on the wrong foot. I haven't even met the person. I don't want them thinking I don't like him or her, sorry, rather. Um And I know that a misunderstanding like that could lead to me, either A, people not being comfortable because they think that I'm anti hippie, or think that I'm supportive of hippies if their idea of hippie is different from the hippies I know in Boulder. I, that right there almost sounded like I was, hippies down in Boulder. I wasn't trying to make it sound like that, but it didn't come out right, did it? The hippies I know in Boulder are all pretty cool people. I mean, real hippies. They're older than I am by a bit, but they grew up in that area. They grew up with the whole Haight and Ashbury thinking and frame of mind. They grew up with the Jerry Garcia and all that. I mean, that was their era, and most of them are pretty cool. Some of them are what you might call corporate hippies. They they sold out, I guess, to the establishment, but at the same time, they still kick down to the people they know and love, people they remember. They still go to the Grateful Dead off band concerts and things like that. I mean, they try to be supportive of where they came from. They don't forget. A lot of people that end up homeless and then they get unhomeless, they quickly forget where they came from. They quickly forget that there's other people out there, and they tell themselves they did it all themselves. That that life is behind them now, and they forget about everyone that did help them, the people who really were there for them. Oftentimes, the people that helped them get unhomeless, they look down on because those people are still homeless. Well, did you help those people the way they helped you? Did you look out for them the way they looked out for you? And when those people that you help out, they're not homeless anymore, and you know for a fact that it wasn't just you who helped them, it was a lot of people who worked together to make that happen. And then they're looking down on you and treating you like you wanted, needed, chose, or deserved what you're going through. The same things that they were going through, the things that they just want to forget about. And along with forgetting about those things includes forgetting about you. Can't find my cigarettes and it's bugging me. Sorry, folks. Now, a lot of my anxiety, all it takes is one employee not liking you or finding you offensive for it to not be a safe and comfortable place anymore. And I'm going to tell you why. My Starbucks, the one on Pearl Street. For 7 years, I went to that Starbucks and I helped people out from inside that Starbucks. That Starbucks was basically safe place. It was base. When people needed to come talk to Starbucks Sean, there's a reason they called me that. I was at Starbucks. That was if you had problems and you really needed help. Yeah, you could always find me there. And if I had my computer out and open, you were free to use it to contact your family. If I had my phone, see, my first smartphone was the one that I was given by Natalie Bollinger's. Well, by Natalie Bollinger's sister, Alicia. It was Natalie Bollinger's old phone. But that wasn't the first one I ever carried. There was one that Janine Barrett paid for. That's Derek Parrish's mom. And that was the emergency phone on Pearl Street. Anybody who needed the phone, that was the deal for me carrying it, because I was always out there anyway. Anybody who needed to use that phone could use that phone. I really didn't know how to use it except for the dialing out. That's all I did. Um, and they even had to teach me how to do that. I also had a video game on there that Janine helped me to put on there. And that was it. I mean, it was just for emergencies. Now, outside of Starbucks, there were a lot of people that, yeah, I don't want kids hanging out with me. I don't want them hanging around with the drug dealers down on Pearl Street or over at the library. If I'm over there and kids want to come to the group that I'm sitting in, I say, no, I'm not okay with this. I'm not comfortable with this. It's problems I don't want. It's problems that I can't deal with. It's problems that nobody should have to deal with. Just the assumptions that people will make will result in harm. And you have no idea unless you've lived it, unless you've had other people that you know and love who have had to go through it. That happens often, a lot more often than you might think. But also, there's a lot of situations where people who were younger did need issues resolved, and the cops weren't doing anything, or they were afraid to go to the cops, and they'd come and tell me about it. And I mean, what can I really do? Not a whole heck of a lot. I can go to the cops, but until you turn 18, yeah, those are pretty much your only options, unless you want me to go to jail or prison. And what would the jail or prison be for? For trying to help. That does happen. And that's a good portion of the reason that I always tried to run them off, even when it was in Starbucks. Like, the only reason I didn't try is because it says right there on their building, it says right on that piece of paper, it says the environment that it's supposed to be inclusive. And those children, if they're going in there and they're being customers and they want to sit wherever they want to sit, it's not okay for you to be bullying them or belittling them or trying to run them off. That is not okay. That is a safe place for those children, the same as it's supposed to be a safe place for someone in the LGBT community, the same as it's supposed to be a safe place for a minority, the same as it's supposed to be a safe place for even you, all of you, even those of you who are bigots. But you need to watch your mouth. You need to mind your words. Because, like I said, it is an inclusive environment. When I had the Starbucks in Boulder, and that was my Starbucks, 7 years of, well, I think it was about 6 years, 6.5 years, that I escorted whoever was there to the garbage can every time they took out the garbage. That all started with a guy named Aaron. And of course, there's a guy named Tom. He's still on my friends list. I knew him from Starbucks. and he was friends with Aaron too. Aaron was a real big guy, so they had some issues with alcoholics and stuff, mostly homeless. I'm not gonna pretend they weren't. You know, the bad apples make it bad for everybody, blah blah blah. Well, there's still people. But Aaron, because he was big, was the one who was always elected to be the one to go tell them they gotta go, they gotta leave, and he hated it. And one day, a couple of the homeless people that were kicked out by him, they went and cornered him over by the garbage cans when he went to take out the garbage. And you know, you guys can laugh all you want and be as shameful as you want about it, but this guy was a teddy bear. He didn't like violence. He didn't want no violence. He didn't want to kick people out. He hated that part of his job. So they cornered him by the garbage cans and they had knives. And after that, yeah, I always went out with people when they took out the trash. Now, after I hurt my back, all my friends basically just threw me away. And I was watching a video I'd never seen before. I remember the video. It was Ruth B. Lost Boy. And it made me cry. And I was thinking about all my dead loved ones over the years. I mean, that song just, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I loved all these people. A lot of them are dead. A lot of them threw me away like I was trash over trivial stuff, over misunderstandings, mostly in text at that point, mostly in messaging. And all of us, we all had that conversation about how things are taken wrong in texting and in messaging. But they all magically forget it when it's time for them to be angry, when they're frustrated, when they're coming down off of their drug of choice, or, you know, when they just don't want to hear it anymore. They don't care. There's a lot of stuff that I can't work on in Starbucks. There's a lot of things I can't do in Starbucks. Fighting my case, making the calls that I need to make, cannot be done inside a Starbucks. People don't want to go in there and drink their coffee and hear about pedophiles, and rape, and murder, and losing your best friends. So there's a young woman at Starbucks. I was watching that video. Her name was Devin, and she came over and she asked me if I wanted to go have a beer with her. And I didn't think anything of it. I wasn't thinking like boyfriend, girlfriend, or anything like that. I assumed that she saw me crying and just wanted to be friendly, you know. And well, I told her I don't drink, but that I'd go out and have a beer with her. And so she told me just to wait outside and she'd get me after work. And it was only like half an hour or so. And when she came out, she walked by like she didn't even see me. And that hurt a lot. Like I was wondering what I had done. Well, it turned out she hadn't seen me. There was a couple other homeless people out there, and they were kind of scary. And so she was in a hurry to scurry past them. But I didn't know that. You know, I was only 20 feet from her, if that, when she came out of the building. There was only like 4 or 5 people on the whole block. And so Devin, I wasn't sure what I'd done. For like a couple of days after that, she didn't talk to me, and I wasn't sure what was up. And I asked her about it, and she went, oh, yeah. Well, Sean, I didn't see you. I'm sorry about that. I didn't think anything of it. We've been busy." And she was right. They had been busy. They'd been very busy. But anyway, she said that she would, have a one-on-one conversation with me, and I was thinking at Starbucks, or maybe outside under the awning at Starbucks. But she invited me to her house. Now, I am 100% against this. Is one of my number one rules with Starbucks employees: never go home with one, ever. And she didn't take it unfriendly or anything like that. She didn't think that it was about getting jiggy with it or anything like that, or getting physically intimate. She didn't give me that kind of vibe at all. She was totally chill. She even gave me a card that had her phone number on it, and that way, if I needed to get a hold of her, I could. The problem is, at that point, like, I was having so many other issues with my back problems and with everything else, and none of this is her fault. Literally, none of it is Devin's fault. Her name is Devin Cockerill, by the way. And she was a Starbucks employee, very sweet lady. I mean, seriously. She was also young, blonde haired, blue eyed, going to see you. It's difficult for her not to be paranoid. They had just gotten a new manager, and the new manager didn't know me from Adam. So, of course, with the new manager not knowing me from Adam, and with me, acting differently, obviously, I'd been harassed by the cops almost every night since I hurt my back. I was averaging less than an hour of sleep a night. I very well could have been completely friggin' psychotic at that point, and I was lucky that I wasn't. You get that sleep deprived, things that are good don't generally happen. Now, there was also my computer getting stolen at the time, and Nicole Van Duzer, who is also a, Starbucks employee at the time, gave me a computer. And although I couldn't play games on it, I could do other things. I could watch YouTube and check Facebook and help to keep me in touch with the world. But people forgot about me because my back was injured and I hadn't been around a while in a lot of people's lives because I'd been elsewhere and I needed help. I couldn't take care of myself, and I couldn't get people to understand I can't take care of myself. I literally cannot take care of myself. And with Devin, like, when I was at her house, we talked a little bit about the situation, and I tried to explain to her about the Ruth B song and about how I didn't think she was trying to hit on me or anything like that. I actually snuck out of her house when she went to bed. I snuck out. I wasn't gonna stay the night. And there's a reason that those are my rules. There's a reason you don't go to those people's houses. There's a reason that you don't get them that involved in your personal stuff. If there's a situation where something was taken wrong, it should be left at that. If you can't take care of it in that environment, when they go to their personal home environment, let them be. Anyway, I never went back to her place or anything like that. I went back to my Starbucks, and by that point, I was starting to go to a different Starbucks because it was just a very unsettling place for me at that point. It would be within a couple of days. With Devin, with me leaving early, um, and her not knowing what happened with me until she came back to work, and she wanted to put $50 on my Starbucks card. I didn't need that, you know. So then, when I said I didn't need money on my Starbucks card, because like I said, she's a real nice lady. She wanted to do something good for me. She wanted to spend money on me and let me know that I did mean something, just like Candace Bondurant did when she bought those McDonald's cards for Rick Duran and Melissa Sharp. Like, Candace Bondurant bought those because she wanted to make me feel better. She wanted to show me that she does care about the homeless. Just like Holly Howell, um, she's a girl I went to high school with. She gave me blankets for the homeless, or offered to at least. When it comes to an inclusive environment, it's not always easy to know what the right thing to say is. Sometimes when you're in a hurry to say something, you might not say thank you in the right way. It might be taken wrong. With Devin, I tried to say thank you to her. Josh was giving me a hard time about Devin. Like, you went home with her and didn't this and didn't that. Is it right if I, like, no, dude, you know what? Whatever. I'm not talking about somebody's intimate sex life with you, Josh. That's not my business. It's not your business. I don't want to have this conversation. And I wrote down on a plate. I tried to write a letter with Devin to explain the situation and to explain that you know she had said that she would talk to me about it because she had taken things wrong again, and that as far as ignoring the situation, other people at Starbucks were starting to treat me weird and starting to treat me different, and it made me feel uncomfortable being there. And as a result, I started going to the one at University and Broadway instead. And with Devin, it wasn't a personal insult, but I explained to her, hey, could we sit down in a quasi public setting, sit down and have coffee at Starbucks, and I could explain, you know, really, I don't think that the way that I wrote it down, obviously with words regionally meaning something different, or the way that you're raised meaning something different. Like, here's one example: misleading. Misleading, some people will automatically jump to physical intimacy or the possibility of dating in that. And for me, no. If you've misled me, you could mislead me in a number of different ways. If you tell me, hey man, there's gonna be a party out at my farm on, Saturday night, you should come out and play the guitar, and then I go out there with the guitar, and I'm just standing out there in a pasture by myself. I just spent the last of my gas to go out there. I got just enough to get back to town. That's misleading. When you're leading somebody on, you're saying that you're going to do something. You're going to take the time to listen, and she had told me that she was going to take the time to listen. She was going to sit down with me when she had a break, and then she just never did. And then, later on, she had explained, it's because I'm a college student, I'm very busy. And I was like, well, the thing is that there's other Starbucks employees now who are treating me different. And they're acting strange, and and making comments that make me uncomfortable. I'm not like that. I don't think of any of y'all like that. One secret about me, I don't believe that all women are lesbians, but I pretend that they are. I don't want to have anything to do with that part of anybody's life. That's theirs. If they want to share it with somebody else, fine. That's not the part I'm interested in. You got a brain. That's a lot more valuable to me. Understanding is far more valuable to me. Being able to put myself in your shoes is far more valuable to me. So when it comes to Starbucks and being inclusive, you know, regional dialects, when I was growing up, when you lead someone on, when you're in the system, most of the time there's only one gender in the place that you're locked up in, or there's only one gender in the dorm room that you're in, or there's only, obviously that you're not having cohabitation between boys and girls in the same room. It is segregated according to gender. When you're leading somebody on, especially when you have a fighting group about somebody leading someone else on, it's never a physical intimacy thing. You said you were gonna help me out with my homework. You were leading me on. And when you write that stuff and you're trying to write it all on a plate because that's all you have because all your stuff got stolen, like, you know, it's not easy. When Natalie when Natalie was killed, nearly all those people at that Starbucks, I was friends with almost all of them on Facebook and in real life. Roberta Richards, she was the one who really made it an inclusive environment for me. She knew I was autistic from day one. Matter of fact, she came up next to me while I was stirring my coffee and told me I was autistic. She was right. Roberta Richards, she's something else. She's a tiny little lady, but she's a mountain for sure. Strong will, strong mind, and she made that place safe for me. Roberta, Miss Bobby, made that place safe for me for 7 years. It was actually Miss Bobby when she started treating me differently. That's when I decided I wasn't going to go back there anymore. And after Natalie was killed, I did go back. I did go back once, and I gave Miss Bobby a hug, and I told her I loved her, and I said thank you. The way that Starbucks is supposed to be is inclusive. It's supposed to be a safe environment for all of us. But it's not a safe environment to be a bigot. That scares people. It makes them afraid that you might wait outside for them. Like when you've got somebody who's, if you've got a friend who's flamboyantly gay and you're in a Starbucks with them and you've got a guy at the next table down and he's talking about how he wants to beat up people who are homosexuals and cross dressers and people who talk like this and people who talk like that, and he's going through the list of people he wishes didn't exist and all this other stuff, you're going to be scared to leave the building. You're going to be scared to go anywhere. If you say something, it makes a difference. In a Starbucks, there's other people that'll speak up for you. It's part of their mission statement. So as corporate as people want to make it, or make it out to be, with all these profits that they're supposed to be making, like I see how good the employees are to people with little to nothing. Once in a while, you end up with an employee like that feller in Cheyenne, Wyoming, that just doesn't like homeless people. There's nothing you can do about a person like that, especially when they're able to hide it till they get an assistant manager position. And since they were transitioning between managers, that was his opportunity. Other than that, I mean, Priscilla was great there. Maggie helped me out. When I ran out of gas and I couldn't even drive out of their parking lot until I was able to get some gas money, Maggie helped me out. Priscilla was extremely sweet. She was from South America and she was a Jehovah's Witness, and she gave me some pamphlets and stuff. They treated me like I'm a person. The person who didn't treat me like a person there was the only person who didn't treat me like a person there. And for the most part, he tried to at least put on a good game face about it. When people are offended, I'd rather somebody tell me right away, and I'd rather get it squashed right away, and that's what we did right away today. I understand now that that word does mean something different. Just like for most of the United States, if you say leading them on, they're automatically going to jump to that intimacy thing. With me pretending that women are lesbians, I do that not because I actually believe them all to be lesbians. It's because I don't want to have any sort of thoughts or any indication towards a woman that I have anything like that as an interest at all. Because I don't. And I think, there was a friend of mine who told me, he said, you asked that girl out. Now, do you want to have sex with her? I said, no. He said, well, if you don't want to have sex with her, why would you ask her out? And, I don't ask anybody out now. That's not the part I'm interested in. We've all got brains. All of us, whether we're men or women. Sure, you get a few people together and you get them drinking alcohol, they get a little more primitive, think a little more on the side of procreation, but of course, with me avoiding alcohol, I don't have that issue. With me not doing meth, I don't have that issue. With me not doing coke, I don't have that issue. Of course, I say that as I have a Mexican Coca-Cola bottle in my hand. You know what I mean, though. It is an inclusive environment at Starbucks. They try to treat everyone like we're all human beings, because we are. And I've seen a lot of Starbucks take punishment that just ain't cool. I've seen customers throw hot cups of coffee at or on baristas. I've seen people pull weapons on baristas. Pearl Street Mall got to be pretty down and dirty there for a while. When those juggalos came in 2003 and didn't leave, like it made it bad for everyone, and you get to see the repercussions. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, you can't judge all juggalos." You know what? You can't judge all Nazis, right? Why not? Can't judge all Christians, right? You can judge the culture, absolutely. If a culture is destructive, it is destructive, even if not all members are destructive. Not all juggalos do drugs. Not all juggalos are stupid. But at the same time, we had a whole bunch of people who came through with a whole mantra of disrespect. I'm not talking about disrespect as in just social niceties. I'm talking about outright being damaging and condemning to the entire community. Being loud and boisterous about it. Calling attention on the wrong people. Was it the homeless that were doing those things, or was it specifically the juggalos that were doing those things? Well, specifically the juggalos. And they stuck around. That attitude permeated, their drugs permeated. It got to the point on Pearl Street where Starbucks was the only safe place that you had to go. Depending how much room they had and whether or not you'd gone in there a few drunk mornings and passed out in there and gotten an attitude when Aaron had to wake you up. So this morning, when I said something that was taken offensively, I knew absolutely that it was my fault because I didn't say it right, because it didn't come out of my mouth right. And I apologized for exactly that reason. I was in the wrong. I should have properly stated my words. I should have thought them out more carefully. I usually do.